sharing learning and awareness of research that you can get involved with across the deanery. And as a central hub to just signpost trainees to available opportunities and research according to their special interest, and by providing educational opportunities such as today for development of research skills. So today we are joined by Dr. Aoife Hurley, an ST8 neonatal grid trainee in Yorkshire and Humber, almost a consultant, who's discussing how to turn quality improvement projects into publications, a really important topic that will help us to get up the ladder, building our CV, and is really beneficial for getting those points on subspecialty applications. So thank you for joining us today, Aoife, and I will let you take it from here. So I will just unshare a moment, well, if I can. Stop sharing. Goodness.
Great, thanks, Verena. I will just share my screen and let me know if you can't see this. And I said to Verena, I can send you these. They're not many slides, but I can send you these slides afterwards. So, like I said, I'm Aoife, a registrar in Yorkshire, in Leeds, and it's so I slightly changed the title. It's turning quality improvement or just projects in general into posters / publications. I'm probably not the best person to tell you how to get a publication. It's hard work, but I can give you tips definitely onto posters and give you advice based on my experience getting publications as well. If anyone has any questions, don't hesitate to shout out. I apologise in advance. This is a very neonatal themed presentation in terms of conferences that I'll recommend and journals that I'll recommend, but that's because I don't really have a clue about gastro or hepatology or nephrology or anything, any other ology. So yeah, it is very neonatal based. So just a bit about why everyone should do it and what useful resources you can use to try and get these posters and publications, and some examples of conferences and journals to try, how to go about submitting an abstract, how to write an abstract, and what to do when you're accepted. And then if anybody has any questions, ask away throughout, just put your hand up and I'll do my best to answer. So why should you do it? Well, it's something you have to do anyway. Mainly, everybody has to do QI projects during training. So you might as well make it worth your while doing a QI project and doing a couple of rounds, a couple of cycles, sorry, and then writing it up afterwards. You're doing all this hard work, so you might as well get something out of it. And when you're doing that, it's thinking about smart QI projects to do as well. It's going to improve the care for our patients by doing quality improvement projects. It's going to give us the opportunity by doing these quality improvement projects to share what we have learned with our colleagues, both regionally, nationally and internationally. So I think it's always, as well as sharing our success stories, actually I do think it's just as important to share our experiences of projects that didn't work as well as we thought they worked and what our pitfalls were, because actually someone else might take that information and be able to adapt it and make it successful. Likewise, we could go to conferences and see projects that didn't quite give the results that we were expecting, and actually we might be able to adapt those projects using our own experience and knowledge and get answers that a positive answer. So it's kind of that collaborative approach, which is, like I said, only beneficial for the patients that we look after and our families. By going and presenting at conferences, then you have the opportunity to attend them and you can learn from lots of different people, and it's always a good experience to go to these conferences, and you might be inspired with future projects as well, both in terms of publications, both in terms of posters. So it's really worth going to. Like Verena said quite rightly, CV points. So this is not just CV points for your specialty training, it's also CV points for your consultant jobs. So not everyone is going to want to be a neonatologist. A lot of people want to be a general paediatrician, and that is brilliant. But actually, you do need to show that you can be invested in QI and do QI, because you will have to support your teams going forward in quality improvement projects. And actually, again, you want to prove to the department that you're wanting to work for that you are someone they want to have on their team. So by showing that you can do these quality improvement projects, that you can present them at conferences, nationally, internationally, and write them up, actually you are a really good investment as a future colleague. So it's not just for those wanting to do some specialty training, I would say. Build up your research background, so it's really inspiring, like I said, going to these conferences and learning from all these incredible people, and it helps you learn about different techniques, what different kind of studies are available, and how you can get involved in it, because it's really hard. A lot of the time you are service provision at times, and that's really tricky if you're trying to and you don't get a lot of SPA time, so you're trying to balance doing your extracurricular activities, academic activities, and then your clinical activities, and it's really difficult to get that balance. So being a smart researcher and knowing how to do this better is going to make us more time efficient as well. And it's a way of improving your presenting skills, so we all should be working on our presentations in terms of in our departments, presenting at local teaching, journal clubs. We should be actively involved as registrars in our mortality meetings, if we have morbidity meetings, because we need to be able to teach future colleagues coming through and share learning as well. Is everyone all right to mute? Thanks. So that's really important, and actually having the opportunity to present our work at conferences is another way to do this. And this might be an oral presentation, or it might be a poster presentation, but it's really good practice for that. By doing these quality improvement projects, then you might actually decide that you have a real interest, a true interest, and not just you have to do it kind of interest. And that might become a real big part of your future career and take you off on a different journey and open up different opportunities for you by building on this quality improvement experience and background as a trainee. And it's an opportunity to network. So like I said, meeting all these people from different units, different areas, learning from them, having a collaborative approach, and it might open up research opportunities later on, and collaborative work later on, and even fellowship opportunities later on. So it's really worth going to these conferences if you can, and feeding into that is the opportunity to travel. So I've been really lucky as a UK, as a Leeds trainee, a West Yorkshire trainee, is I've presented at conferences in Paris, in Lisbon, in Toronto, in Maastricht, across the UK. Like, so there's really loads of opportunities to get out there and do stuff, and I think you work really hard, so you should reap the benefits of this work as well, and you know, show people how good you are, and really get that credit for all that wonderful work that we do every day. So the main thing, like I said, is we have to do it. It's on our core curriculum, and it's on our generic syllabus for paediatric, specialty paediatric training. It is a learning outcome 8, and I've snapshotted, and it's a bit hazy, but that is the ARCP review tool that we should all be doing and uploading to our portfolio with the evidence in it, and the boxes around learning outcome 8. So that is QI projects, guidelines, and audit presentations. So you need to be doing it anyway. So it's using what you're already doing and taking it a step further and getting double the benefit from it, I guess. And then that is just a bit about learning outcome 8. So just make sure if you're doing a quality improvement project, even if you're like in the starting phase, so reflect on it, add it to your portfolio and tag it. And then you can build upon it with your future. If you present like at Leeds Neonatal Unit, we have quality improvement groups, and you meet a few times during 6 months and present a few times in the 6 months. So reflect on each presentation and each meeting and the work that you've done, and kind of add your presentations to it. And it builds up in your portfolio the quality improvement work that you're doing, because the portfolio is it's not about ticking off a box once you've done it. It's showing that kind of building of knowledge and building of skills. It's not just I did it once as an ST4, I don't need to do it again. It's showing growth and progression. And actually you might have been a senior registrar on a group as an ST45, and actually as an ST67, you've got this interest in a quality improvement project, and you have designed it and you have led on it. And that's a real progression on what you did before. And so you need to reflect and add that. So just a little plug, it will make your life so much easier, just that kind of regular engagement with your portfolio, and it makes ARCPs less stressful, hopefully. So some resources that you can use. So firstly, your own ideas. So you all work in lots of different units in lots of different places. So you will see examples of good and bad practice everywhere you go, and you will see really interesting ideas that they do in some places that they don't do in others. So you might see that we do delivering cuddles in Leeds, and they don't do it in, say, Calderdale. This is just a total random example. And actually, a quality improvement you could do is bringing those delivering cuddles into Calderdale, and that is a really lovely little QI project. Or you might see on your neonatal unit that babies get, like a third of babies get admitted, and they're cold. So you might say, well, every baby that gets admitted needs to have a hat on before they come over, or some like kind of simple intervention that makes a big change. And then you find that actually you go from 30% of your babies being cold to 15. So you will notice things, and you will see things. So discuss those with your clinical supervisors and say, I've seen this, and I really would like to, if it's a goer, I'd really like to run with it and make it a project. And you'll find that most people will be really supportive of this. So back yourself, trust yourself. There's also speaking to your senior trainees, your consultants and your supervisors if they have any projects as well. So some people don't always have the ideas, but actually they're really good at running with ideas and seeing them to completion, because that's what you want, seeing it to completion. And so it's okay if you can't think of anything, but someone says, have you thought about X? And you're like, no, but I can do it. And so that is just as a great skill to have. Again, attending conferences, you might see stuff at a conference that we don't do in our centre, the centre that you're at, and you might say, well, actually, I want to bring this in. So, example, I was on a fellowship last year. They did surgical pre and post-op safety huddles. So I brought that into Leeds as something new. And I know colleagues have attended conferences, and they a few years ago, and they were doing delivering cuddles in another neonatal unit down south. So they brought those into Leeds, and now they're kind of really ingrained. And I know other centres in West Yorkshire are doing something similar. So it's really a positive example of you can see something at a conference and bring it back to your unit and really make a positive change. Twitter/X, whatever you want to call it, although it's like a very horrible place most of the time, actually for some medical service, it can be really useful. So they might have new other people saying what quality improvement projects they're doing, or papers or publications that have been recently like hot off the press, and you can get inspiration from those as well. And podcasts as well. So if you have, if you listen to any pediatric medical podcasts, so for neonates, there's the Incubator podcast, which is a really good North American podcast, and they talk about Journal Club. They get interviews with people on it. And again, that can give you real food for thought and think, oh, well, this paper that they discussed, we don't do that in my unit. I really think we could implement that. So it's kind of thinking about all these different things. And then resources and how to do QI, just very briefly, because I'm sure people talk about QI all the time to you, is that on the RCPCH website, there's stuff about QI methodology and how to use it properly. So it's worth having a look on that. You can do that module, upload that to your portfolio, done, big tick. Sprint, I'm sure, talks about QI, and I know we have a QI fellow at Leeds, so speaking to your QI fellow, there'll be a wealth of knowledge. Again, seniors that have an interest in QI as well, so speaking to them and using them as a resource as well. So kind of using everyone, because that's how we work better, working all together. And then just a few conferences that you could submit to, that I've submitted to in the past. And apologies again, they are some general, but mainly neonatal themed, because I couldn't confidently tell you about any others. So general paediatric ones, you've got, you can start smaller. So you could submit to the School of Paediatrics annual meeting. So the QI work you're doing now in your local units, whatever they are, get it written and put it into the School of Paediatrics meeting, because that is really great practice in how to write an abstract, how to hopefully have a poster presentation or an oral presentation, and then build upon that. So definitely, when you get emails about it and the abstract portal's open, really do work towards putting something into it. You've got the RCPCH 2025 conference, so that's the annual college conference, and the abstracts for this one are definitely open until the 3rd of December. So again, get something in there. You have all the different themes of all the different ologies that are out there, so you can submit something to the RCPCH under BAPA, British Association of Perinatal Medicine, the neonatal conference, or cardiology or respiratory or whatever. And if you put an abstract to this and get a poster presentation, then it gets printed, it gets published in archives as an abstract, so you get like a bit of a dodgy, but publication as well. You've got EAP, so that's the European Academic Paediatric Societies Conference, and that is in Vienna this year, I think. Abstracts are closed for that, but that's every year, so you should be looking at that one as well. And again, that's everything. And then you've got BADS, which is the Paediatric Academic Society Conference one. That's the big North American one. It's absolutely massive, and if anyone ever gets the chance to go to that, it's really worth doing that one. And it's in Hawaii next year as well. Just to put that out there. And the Americans are a completely different breed when it comes to academia compared to us because of the way that job role is. But it's a really interesting conference to go to. And then the neonatal one, so you've got BAPM, and they have 2 meetings. So they have like the big one in September time, and then they have one this spring meeting, which is aimed more at like trainees, ANPs, more junior people. And that's a lovely little conference that again that will have abstracts that you can submit to. And I don't know when that's open. You've got JENS, which is the joint European Neonatal Society, and that's every 2 years. So next year that's in Serbia. And again, that's a really big neonatal conference and worth putting work into. ESNEC is like the European Society of Paediatric and Neonatal Intensive Care, so very ICU themed conference. And that was in June this year, so I don't know when it is next year. I don't know if this is an every other year one as well. But again, that's worth looking at who are intensive care minded. The Neonatal Society, again, that's a really good one to go for. That has 3 meetings a year, so spring, but definitely summer and winter time one. So again, it's worth keeping an eye out for that, and they often have really good speakers, and it's worth getting stuff into. Reason is another really good neonatal conference. So Reason probably a bit more academic-y than probably BAPM, but it's a really good conference and definitely worth putting work into. And then there's the National Neonatal Transport Group, which is a meeting in November this year in Glasgow, and then that's got abstracts open until the 15th of July. So that one's a bit more niche. If anyone's done the Embrace or any form of transport, again, get it in there. And again, these are such great opportunities to give it a go, to practice, and then also to, like I said, to network, to get inspiration for your future ideas. It's definitely worth doing. And then just in journals. So like I said, posters, grand, oral presentations, grand. I've got a handful of publications. So it's really difficult for me personally to do them. I have to work really hard at them, and some people are naturally incredibly gifted at doing this. So there might be other people that are better placed to advise you, but these are just some of the journals that are worth looking at. So definitely Archives of Disease. You've got all the different journals within that. So the education, the fetal neonatal one, Acta Paediatrica. So that's a good online journal as well. Infant Journal is another neonatal one that you can do. And then you've got the big North American ones, so the JAMA Pediatrics, American Academy of Pediatrics, and there's a whole heaps of lists. And you want to be looking at things like the impact factor and that kind of stuff. And you don't want to have to be having to pay to submit your work. So it's thinking about those kind of things. And I will say, when you're looking to do your application for subspecialty training, if you are able to know earlier in your career, then that's great. And have a look at the specification just to give you an idea of what you need to be working on and aiming towards, and being realistic in your goals as well. So if you're ST4 and or ST3, sorry, and you're going into ST4 next year and you're going to apply for subspecialty training next year, and you haven't got any publications, it's very unlikely that you're going to get a publication in time for application next year. However, it's more likely that you'll be able to get a couple of poster presentations or an oral presentation. You can still do it, but it's just being realistic about what you can achieve in the time frame that you have. And so yes, it's just being aware that this is a longer process. It takes more time to do it. It's definitely worth doing, but it's just being realistic in what you can achieve in your goals. Sorry. So when you're submitting an abstract, don't be last minute. I've done that a few times where I've left it to the night of and the night before to write the abstract, and then you realise, oh, it actually takes a bit longer than you think. And that's because you've done all the work for it. But then often they have a word limit of maybe 250 to 300 words, which sounds like loads, but actually when you start writing, it's not actually that much. That's not actually that many words. So you need to have the time to write an initial draft, and if that's over, fine, but have that time to kind of refine it and get it down to the word count in time to submit it, making sure that it makes sense. So you often need to register, not necessarily register and pay, but register for an account to be able to submit your abstract. I would read other abstract examples. So lots of other websites will give you that. So for instance, BAPM have examples of high scoring abstracts on their website. Your seniors might show you hopefully will show you their abstracts that have been successfully accepted in conferences to give you a flavour and an idea of what you need to be doing in your abstract. It sounds really daft, but follow what the conference organisers have asked. Follow their instructions. Don't submit something that you think they want. You need to be making sure that you're following what they've asked for, because otherwise it might not get accepted. So it's just making sure that you do that. Avoid using filler words because you don't have enough words for that. Don't use abbreviations or jargon. You could use abbreviations early on and then explain what it is, use the abbreviation, and then use that throughout, but don't just put an abbreviation in. Again, it's obvious, but don't use patient identifiable details, especially if you're some conferences will accept case reports or interesting cases with learning points, but just make sure you don't have patient identifiable details. And if you are doing a case report, and make sure that you have got written parental consent from it. And again, the BMJ have got a document for parents you can print off and parents can sign a consent form. That's what I was trying to say. Get colleagues to read it for you. So it doesn't even have to be your person in charge of the project. It could be, if it's a project you're doing on your own or someone else, it could be a senior that you work well with, could be another consultant that you work well with, just getting or a nurse practitioner, just getting them to read through it. And things like, does it make sense? Can you understand what I'm trying to say? Is the English correct in it? And do that before you submit it. And then give yourself that breathing space to read it before you submit it as well. And then I would save what you submit as like a document on your computer or whatever. And I've done it before where I've just uploaded it and then not had a copy myself, and I've had to email the conference organisers to get the abstract to be able to then do my poster. So they're just a few things that I thought were helpful. And then the format. So most of them will be title, intro/background, methods, results, and conclusion. And like I said, it's often very short. So you have to be snappy. You have to get all your information into there. In terms of the title, they recommend, well, not recommend, but it should reflect the topic or the message or what your quality improvement project was trying to show and achieve. And the shorter and the snappier it is, the better. You want to grab people's attention. You want to grab the abstract markers' attention, so that they want to carry on reading. And so actually they can have an idea or a flavour of what your abstract and project has been about by the title. In the introduction and background, so it needs to be brief and it needs to be relevant. So what is already known on this topic? So have you reviewed the literature? You don't necessarily need to include your references at this point. You could always reference it in your poster, but have you reviewed it and added everything? Saying is your information interesting and useful for other people to do this. So if it's a QI project and not just an audit, include a bit about your QI methodology, and consider if you have included a sustained change in your practice or your team's practice. Using the buzzwords in your abstract, so things like, especially for QI, like stakeholders, fishbone diagrams, and sustained improvement, and multiple cycles, and PDSA, and all this stuff. It shows to the people marking it that actually this person understands QI. They know, as long as you use it appropriately, don't just like throw it in and just on the off chance, but it shows to them that you understand the process and you know what you're talking about. If you've just done an audit, not just, but if you've done an audit and put that in, and it's been an interesting audit and you've got some learning points, just make sure those learning points are in there. So for example, when I was on PIC last time, I noticed that we had a load of postnatal diagnosis of coarctation of the aorta and hypoplastic aortic arches. So I did a review of them just to see if there was any common themes, if they were coming from certain places, if there was any identifiable, themes that I could then use as a learning point and share regionally or share with that team. So that's what I did, and that again, that's work that was accepted to conferences, because again, the way that you word it, you kind of really share that learning point. So it's not, so it might not always be a QI project, it might be an audit, but it's just making sure it's interesting and relevant to conference you're submitting it to. And if it is a case report, so you need to be clear about what makes it interesting. So is it a uncommon complication of a common condition, which is probably going to be more interesting for people than a very, very rare condition, because there's probably already quite a few like solitary case reports about it, and actually having something like that is going to be of an uncommon complication is going to be more useful for our colleagues. And it's just all about being smart. So a bit like when you do PDPs, you want to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and within time. And what is the exact research/audit question you have asked? And again, just making sure that you have actually addressed that in your abstract. Otherwise, you're not going to likely get accepted. So again, a bit about methods. What exactly did you do? Define it clearly, because then what you want is for it to be understandable and then replicatable as well. So again, it's part of that shared learning collaboration. Actually, if you describe succinctly and clearly how you've done something, then colleagues can replicate that elsewhere and turn it into an even bigger project, or like share that learning. And then people can understand how you've got those results as well. You need to talk about what kind of study it was. So quality improvement project, was this, if you're doing research, was this an RCT? Was this a case control series? Was this a case report? Like whatever it is, just be clear on what it is in your method, and how you got your data, and how did you select your cohorts as well. And results, so that's like I guess the meat of the abstract. So include data that's completely relevant. If you've got lots of data from your quality improvement project, include, and you might not have the word count to have it all in there, include just the bits that are relevant to the question that you're proposing in your introduction, your aims. Don't necessarily put it all in there, because you'll waste words and you'll lose the message. You can always add like a little table in your poster or in your presentation later, or if you're writing it up in that. But I think in this bit, it needs to be what is relevant to your data, and thinking about how you're going to present that data, making it clear and concise and understandable. And again, just echoing what we're saying in the methods bit, it just needs to be enough information that it's potentially a repeatable project. And the more, I'm a very simple person, so the more simple, and I personally think the more simple the stats, the easier it is for everybody to understand it, and again, easier for people to read it, and especially the people in conferences, or for also the people, but you yourself and your team, and those people marking it as well. So those either reviewing it for publication or for presentations, they can understand it. It's much easier for it to do. You need to think about what then these statistics are telling the reader as well. You don't want to be over-analysing stuff. If you don't understand your data and you put it in as jargon, then the chances are that the reader won't understand it either, and the person marking it won't understand it, so it won't get accepted. It's important, and I guess one of the key things as well is to highlight what bits of your quality improvement project that is new or unique, or your kind of your main finding, and putting that at the end, so it's kind of a punchy end point. And then it's important that with this data, that then people can just that thinking about again what the reader, when they're looking at it, will they be able to say if this is relevant to their own practice or not. So thinking to when you do journal club, when you're using that CAS tool or whatever it is, one of the things that we think about is this information in this journal, is it applicable to my patient cohort? So it's thinking about that. And again, with someone proofreading and self-proofreading as well, it's just making sure you've got good grammar, you've got no typos, it's easy to read, it's being aware that data are always plural. And then finally, conclusion. So thinking about what the reader is going to learn from the abstract, being short and punchy and presenting the learning point in one sentence, if you can. And only include in the conclusion what you can conclude from your data. And don't repeat information given in the introduction because you won't have the words to do so. So just short and succinct and punchy, and then people will really feel like they've left your presentation or your poster or whatever having taken away a strong learning point. When you've done all of this, you've got your abstracts accepted into a conference. First thing to say is probably register for the conference. So cough up the money and go and pay, because otherwise, if you don't, your poster will not be accepted. So even if it's been accepted provisionally, if you don't register and the first presenter isn't there, it will not get accepted. When you're designing your poster, so check if you've got medical illustration in your hospital. So sometimes we have to do it ourselves, use PowerPoint, use it in the landscape mode, and you have to do it yourself. And the key is to make it not too much information on the poster, so it's easy to read. Include like diagrams of graphs, because a bit more visual things than just loads of things on the page. But sometimes if you're lucky, then you have medical illustrations that could help. So at least we have a fantastic medical illustration department, and you can email them the Word copy of your abstract and include tables and graphs that you want included, and they will create the posters for you. And they do a fab job, and they have the Trust logo on it. They'll need a cost code, so you won't have to pay anything if, say, you do work from Leeds and you give it to the Leeds Medical Illustration team. If you give them your unit's cost code approved by your clinical lead, then you don't have to pay anything, and then they get paid by the department to make these posters. And what they'll often do is make the poster and also do a PDF copy as well. When you're making your actual physical poster, if you're going abroad, good advice I was given was to do it on fabric. So then you can fold it up like a tablecloth and put it in the bag, rather than having a big roll, because that's not always easy to carry. So that's something to bear in mind. And when you have your PDF, then you should upload that to your portfolio, reflect on attending the conference, and tag it to Learning Outcome 8. When you're finished with your poster, what a nice thing to do is to give it to your department so they can put it up. And you can have a poster wall. I know in particular, I think it's Bradford Neonates does a great job, and they have posters all on the wall of work that people have done. It's really inspiring when you walk down as a trainee and you can see all your seniors having done stuff, and it kind of inspires you to think, I think anyway, well, actually I could put some effort into this quality improvement project, or this project, whatever it is, and I can get something out of it. I'm not just doing it to be a dog's body, I'm going to actually get something out of it. So I think it's a really good thing to see and to do. And if you do get a presentation, so if you get an oral presentation or if you get a poster walk presentation, it's worth practicing. So if you're doing an oral presentation, you might have 15 minutes for your presentation, making sure that you've got it in time, that you have enough time that people can ask questions, making sure that you know your data inside out, because no one else will know it as well as you do. No one else will know your quality improvement as well as you did, and know, like why X didn't work in your project, and be able to explain that. So be confident in your data and in your work, and sharing that with everybody. And just to say, when you're submitting to conferences, there's different types of poster presentations. So it might just be a poster viewing, in which case it just goes up and people will walk past and have a look, or it might be a poster walk where you stand by your poster and you have 5 minutes to present your poster to everyone, and then people have the opportunity to ask questions, and you go around, usually themed, so it might be like a resus themed 10 posters, or it might be a neonatal respiratory themed 10 posters, or that kind of thing. So you might think it's a poster, but actually if it's a poster walk, you do have to know your information and be able to present it. So it's just being aware of that as well. And then more practical things is putting your study leave request in as soon as possible. So getting that in so it can get approved, and then you won't be able to apply for the money back until you've been to the conference and you've got the certificate and you've uploaded it. But you will have to apply for the study leave first to then be able to follow that process. So it's just a little reminder to do that, and to make sure that you request the money back as soon as you've been to the conference, because it does add up. So making sure, you know, any travel fare, any accommodation, you know, if you've had to eat out, like whatever it has to be, the conference itself is often very expensive. Just making sure that you put all of that money, all of those requests in. The study budget is not as big as it used to be a couple of years ago, definitely, but it's definitely worth submitting and getting some of the money back, because you shouldn't have to fork out all of this to do it. So that is a very whirlwind tour through how to turn quality improvement projects into poster presentations or presentations, and a little bit about publications, but I'm not your girl for that. But it's just to say, think about projects like low-lying fruit projects. So think about projects that you're going to be able to complete that will not take a huge amount of effort, that you can then show a couple of cycles, that you can engage people and keep. And the best thing you could do is get it a sustained project. So even when you move departments or move trusts, someone else can take over and you can work with that person, and then you can show the continuity. So it's not even enough sometimes to have one cycle of one PBSA cycle. Sometimes you have to have a couple in your QI presentations. Definitely in your publications, you'll need multiple QI and PBSA cycles. So it's making sure that you have those in before doing it. But definitely think, you don't have to think of like massive, big ideas. And often small little changes make the biggest difference, and they're the most sustainable. So think of that, and just kind of be aware of what's going on in your department, and get inspiration from those, or from things that you see as well. So yeah, thank you. And if anyone's got any questions, ask away. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Aoife. I'm just wondering, in your experience, are there tips you have for becoming the editor's delight? You know, like when you're sending things for publication, do you have tips for the way we can increase the probability of our abstract being accepted for a formal publication? Because you've mentioned some journals. Yeah, and in my experience, it's not like the easiest to get into. So how can we improve the probability of being accepted?
I think the main thing is following. They'll often have quite clear guidance on their website about what they want, what each project needs to be. So making sure you fulfill that criteria. So if you're doing original research for archives, making sure it's the right word count, that you have the right number of tables, that you have the right number of references. I think if you have someone that is academic in your department, having a chat to them about it and getting them to read it over as well. I think it's trial and error, and it's not an easy thing to do. They don't accept everything, but I think it's got to be again following what they have asked for, not what you think. You know, you might do some work and think it's brilliant, and of course they want to publish it and they don't. So it's just reading what they say. If you're at Leeds, Bob Phillips is one of the editors, I think, of Archives, and is a really lovely man. He used to have, I think they stopped doing them now, but Picket articles, and they were often quite short, like a review of a journal, and they were quite a quicker way to get publication than most other things. I don't know if they do Pickets anymore, actually, but he was someone that was good to speak to about it. But if you have academic trainees, then I would speak to them, or more academic consultants as well. But I'm afraid I don't have any magic words of wisdom, other than some people seem to be very good at it, and I personally have to work very hard at it, and it's not something that comes easily to me.
Thank you.
Is it who's Lucy? Do you want to?
Hi, yeah, sorry, just a quick question. You mentioned there's a QI fellow at Leeds. Do you have their contact details to ask about any projects that are being run at the minute?
Yeah, so they're neonatal specific.
Yeah.
So it's Rania Papa.
Okay.
I'm sure I'll find the details. I don't know if it's like a general paediatric.
Yeah, neonates would be a handy one actually for me. So thank you.
So yeah, thank you all for listening. Just to reiterate, be smart in projects. Choose low-lying fruits projects. Make sure you finish your cycles, hand it over, and then continue. Publications are definitely more work, have no magic. They will take longer than posters, especially think about that if you're looking to apply for GRID. Posters, you want it to be snappy, replicable, not too many words, and answering a question. You want to know about conferences that are coming up, so speak to your supervisors, speak to your colleagues, senior colleagues, or especially your neonatal GRID trainees, for instance, which should all know about good conferences to apply for, and you need to know their abstract dates. You know, you have to be proactive, so this is on all of us to do something, so you have to be proactive in your work, and just give it a go. Like, you won't get accepted to all conferences, and that's fine, but like, I think the more you do it, the easier it gets. So now, after however many years of doing it, then you're like, oh, it's a doddle. I know exactly how they want it to be worded, I know exactly what they want me to say, and I can get an abstract in. But I would definitely recommend starting with the Yorkshire and Humber annual school meeting, because it's a really lovely place to get work into. It's just nice to see your colleagues and be outside of work with them anyway, and it's a really good experience. But yeah, just give it a go. And like I said, it won't always work, but sometimes it will, and it's a really good confidence boost. But definitely, yeah, low-lying fruits. And then this is my email, so if anyone has any questions or they want advice, feel free to email me. And especially people coming to Leeds Neonates, we always have QI projects. I've got loads of QI projects for people coming up, so they're very happy to like help and support people in getting posters, presentations accepted, and working on publications. So yeah, very happy to help if anyone needs anything.
Thank you very much.